So you're brand new to the fashion industry and you want to know how to launch your brand successfully. I have a ton of videos on how to launch, and today I wanted to share with you the biggest mistakes that I see and what to do instead. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Vicki, founder of The Fashion Business Coach, the platform that helps small and startup fashion brands to launch and scale successfully. And this is one of my free weekly videos in which I share with you an industry tip or insight or answer a question that one of my community have asked. If you're not subscribed or following along already, depending on the channel you're watching on, make sure that you do so that you can catch that new free video each and every week. So if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you are a startup fashion brand with no prior experience. And honestly, I'm really glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're doing the research. I'm glad that you're watching the videos, and kudos to you for not just trying to wing it. So a lot of people do that and then they come to me because they need me to fix stuff. And that's really what this video is all about. I'm going to share with you 3 things that people wish they had have done from the start, because they do make a big impact, and they are things where at the time I think people thought, oh, that can't be that important, I'll just wing it. And then at the start it kind of seems okay, it sort of feels like, all right, it was okay to wing it, and then later down the track it kind of all falls apart, and I don't want that for you. So let's dive into the 3 tips that I want to share with you today. Number 1 is that you want to have a really specific audience. I mean super specific. A lot of people come to me and they'll say, oh, my audience is people who are 25 to 45 and they like swimwear. That's not specific enough, okay? And the reason this is so important is because, let's take me and my sister, for example. We both fit into that category. We're both in that age group. We both buy swimwear. It's too broad. Like, we are totally different people. Totally different at different points in our lives, different styles, different commitments and values and priorities. And the thing is that the kind of brand that I would look for is not the kind of thing that my sister would look for. So you have to really think about not only the kind of factual information about a person, like their age, for instance, but also the kinds of things that are important to them, the kind of things that they're looking for. What is their personal style? My sister's so much braver than me. She'll try out all these new cool things, and I'm, for a fashion person, pretty plain, pretty plain Jane, right? If you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know this is quite unusual for me to be wearing a color today. So you've really got to get inside the head of that customer. The good news is this can evolve with time. You don't have to get it perfect the first time round. So don't feel the pressure of perfection, but just go into this with something really specific. And that's going to help you not only to design with intention, but also find your audience, find your community who are going to love your brand and everything that you do. And then it just makes it so much easier to sell to them. And this is one of those things where, yes, at the start, you could just wing it and say, I'm making swimwear for 25 to 45-year-olds. And for the first phases, it's going to be fine. Like, you're going to think, well, I didn't need to spend time on that. And then when it comes to sales and you find it really, really difficult, that's when you'll think, okay, I should have been more specific. But at that point, it's too late, because you've already made the product, you've already done your marketing, designed your website, and then it becomes quite difficult to then change it all. So I'd really encourage you to start off on the right foot with that one. The second mistake that I see people make is they try and create this really big collection. And honestly, to me, for a startup brand, more than kind of 15 styles is a big collection. We don't want to be putting so much pressure on ourselves unless you are somebody who is loaded, I'm talking 6 figures, and has a ton of time, like can dedicate full time or get staff members. We don't want to be having a ton of different things. And that's for a couple of reasons. First one is, if you're watching this video, chances are this is all brand new to you. So you might not know that creating product and working with a factory is actually a lot of work your side. It's not something where you'll just pass it over to somebody else and they'll take care of it. During a production run, I'm in contact with my suppliers most days. Like, most days I have to be checking in. So if you have got 15 styles, that's 15 lots of questions you're going to be getting on a daily basis for portions of this production run. So if you're having a full-time job and can't reply in office hours, that's really going to delay things, and you're going to have a lot to answer when you get home. So you don't want to be having this really big collection for the time and the management purposes. And honestly, it's going to be a learning curve for you if this is new. It's not doable. So many of my clients have successfully launched without prior knowledge, so it's definitely doable. But why put too much pressure on yourself by having so many different styles? The second reason is cost as well. I do find that startups tend to massively underestimate how much product costs to make, particularly if you're starting from scratch. So you probably will find, unless you are one of those fortunate six-figure trust fund babies or something like that, you may find that budget really comes into play as well. The good news is I've had clients who have launched successful ranges with just one item, and they actually planned to make more and just didn't, because they became known for this one item and super successful at it. So they actually have just continued and just had different colors, different lengths and things in that one style. So I'd really keep things to a minimum. The third one, kind of along the same sort of lines about the production side of things, is don't skip the steps. If you watch my other videos on production, you'll know that there's quite a lot of different steps involved if you are creating your own designs from scratch. Please don't be tempted to skip them. Yes, you may save a bit of time, you may save a bit of money in the first instance, but when you hear about these kind of horror stories of manufacturing where people like spent loads of money and then they got product and it was all wrong and they didn't like it and they couldn't sell it, when I kind of dissect those things, it's usually because some of these important manufacturing steps have been skipped. So please don't do that. Yes, it will be easier in the short term, but in the long term, you don't want to be sending a product to market or buying a lot of product that's not been tested, because there's a real risk then that you're just going to have a warehouse or maybe front room or spare bedroom full of stock that you can't sell because there was something that you didn't pick up on during that production process that should have happened, which means that you now have a load of stock you can't sell. So please don't skip that step. As I said, better to have a smaller collection, follow all the steps correctly. You can always create more product in future collections. Just don't put too much pressure on yourself the first time around to have a ton of stuff. You don't need it to be successful and profitable. You don't have to have millions of things. I hope that's been helpful. If you would like to learn more about any of these topics, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you are brand new and want to learn more about the industry, I'm also going to put a link to my free masterclass, which helps you to understand a bit more about that production process and how you can go from not having really much of an idea to really understanding some of the steps that you need to take to get your product manufactured. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.